Okay, remember that they're changing my voice. Keep in mind that people who are psychopaths, that are immature psychopaths, arrogant psychopaths in suits, what have you, various types of psychopaths, they are persecuting me and fuming me and poisoning me and provoking me. And every attractive female in this society is shunning me. And I've been saying this before I went on those 4 trips where I made contact with, I don't remember how many different females that actually responded, but I tried to talk to at least 10 females, and some of them responded. And I told you what would happen well ahead of time. Years ago, I told you what would happen. Before it got this bad, I told you if I tried to approach them, I'm not going to get a favorable response. I said no attractive female is going to submit. I predicted that. I wrote that down. I put it on my wall. It's still there back in 2021. And I predicted these attractive females would not respond because they're not smart enough to respond. If you had a retarded little girl in kindergarten, I could say I predict that retarded little girl will not do calculus in kindergarten because she's not smart enough. When I looked at society, I said, these attractive women in society will not give me a fair chance to date them. They will not appreciate me because they are not smart enough. And the reason why they're not smart enough has to do with the genes you have in society in general. The types of people that try to survive instead of face their oppressor after generations are not smart enough. They didn't have the same martial art argument my patriarchal line has. No offense to anybody. These are the facts. It should never come to me having to put cartoons on the screen to explain to you the differences between me and other people. First of all, every picture on the screen is a picture of somebody or something that is immature and superimposed on something else. Even the depiction of the Black Panther, that is an immature kind of child depiction of the Black Panther. It's for children. Okay, that is not what an African warrior looks like. No African warrior that is known to man who was serious and a great warrior ever wore tights and some kind of LGBT costume with some kind of kitten-like mask on. So the Black Panther is superimposed on the idea of the greatest African warrior, which happens to be the top martial artist ever possible, which is me. They're trying to redirect your thinking from what I look like and how I would be and how I would dress to that. So it is with the 2 kind of teenage childish female cartoon characters. They are superimposed on the childish type of females we have in society, which include young women. Heck, it includes a lot of older women these days as well. They're really females because they never quite grew up. Again, nobody cares about trying to help people more than I do. I am a little bit irritated right now. I've been fumed and poisoned and provoked. This is like my 3rd or 4th video about this morning, and at least one of them I won't release because I started yelling because I was having an angry exchange with the oppressor. But I'm saying this so that people get their facts straight. If you think that attractive females have some good reason to shun me, then you are insane. That is delusional. That is so delusional. 1 + 1 + 1 + 1, which is 4 ones, okay, equals 4. And anybody who thinks that attractive females have a good reason to shun me, Chukwuemeka, the top martial artist ever possible, the Son of God, the most righteous person ever possible, and they are delusional. Are they going to start crying and acting like a child and saying that their daddy said they can't? Are they going to put a pacifier in their mouth and with it in their mouth mumble that the government said they can't? Are they going to grab a handful of gold and start crying about how they're a gold digger and they can't resist putting their career before what is right? They have no excuse. None. They need to grow up. So the majority, if not all, the attractive females on this planet at this time are more like those teeny bopper, childish teenage, Powerpuff Girl looking cartoon characters depicted on the screen than they are like an actual woman. An actual woman who has character and put God first in reality, not some YouTube person pretending, but in reality, would have my utmost respect. That is a creation of God, the utmost respect. Okay. Now, when we look at He-Man and Skeletor, those are the depictions, if I'm not mistaken, on the bottom right. I'm not looking at it right now. The one on the left is He-Man, and he knows he has a cross. He's like a Templar for kids or something. And the one on the right is Skeletor. He's made blue. They want you to associate him, it's like bluish purple, if I remember correctly. They want you to think of him as like a ghetto person. They tend to demonize. They want to make the bad guys, generally speaking, they try to make it so they resemble thugs in the ghetto or something. There's something there. It's not a perfect match, but there's certain overlapping characteristics. The people who are doing this understand characteristics enough to make it so there's unconscious associations taking place here. Unconscious messages to your unconscious mind, your subconscious, what have you. He-Man is a pussy who happens to be gay. That is how he's depicted. In the 80s, they kind of dressed gayish, what have you. But I think that it's fair to say that that's what he is. He's superimposed, probably, on the most respectable of white people. Some kind of white warrior who takes things very seriously. I've never met someone like that myself, but that's what it appears to be. And perhaps that person is of Germanic descent. Perhaps they're Scottish. I don't know. But that's what it's superimposed on. Now, when we look at Spider-Man, and we look at his girlfriend there. His girlfriend actually looks like the ex-girlfriend I had, very kind lady, very nice lady from Santa Cruz who had cerebral palsy. Very nice lady. A lot smarter than probably all my other girlfriends that I've ever had, and every other female, any female that rejected me. A lot smarter. When she saw me, it clicked in her mind. She said, that is a handsome and righteous black man, mulatto, what have you. She happens to be part black and part Mexican. I didn't choose her because she's mixed. I didn't quite know what to think of her racial makeup. I chose her because she looked very innocent. She was like in an Impala or something, and she looked like a very innocent and attractive female in an Impala that she was at a car show in, and she was like posing. I knew she was posing in someone else's car. That was obvious. I didn't know she was at a car show. And I said to her, the first thing I said to her is, I want to buy you that car. And the fact of the matter, if I was rich, I would buy her that vehicle. Even now, and she's probably married now, has a boyfriend. I know she has a kid by someone else, what have you. I would buy her that vehicle because I actually did want to buy her that vehicle, but the white man and so on and so forth, whoever else, they kept me down, so I could not do that because I saw a certain good in her, and I like to do nice things for people. And I like to help disenfranchised people, poor people, regardless of race, what have you. Okay. So, anyway, going back to this thing here, we see Spider-Man, this character, this kind of nerdy guy playing Spider-Man, and we see this female. She's one of the more attractive females out there. They are superimposed on a kind of Jewish nerd kind of guy, maybe where it overlaps with white. It's very difficult to say when they look like that if they're white or Jewish. There's all kinds of controversy about that. It's the Bill Gates effect, I think it should be called, where people technically say they're white, and until someone says, hey, they're actually Jewish, I guess society is supposed to assume that they're white. But I don't know. And so we have this other female that she looks like she's mixed, and she looks like she's, maybe she's black and Jewish, maybe she's black and Filipino, maybe she's black, Mexican, and Jewish. I don't know what she is. Do you? I don't so much care, but I am interested in it. And they look fucking childish. So for people to prioritize someone who's like a 16-year-old kid compared to a very masculine adult. Again, I'm not trying to insult people because of their genes right now. I'm not. But I want you to understand this very important point. For this society to be structured for these small Jewish guys and small nerdy guys and these arrogant guys in suits who are a little taller, so these politicians, military generals, like these taller guys, for them to have less trouble getting a date and for me to make it impossible for me to get a date shows a certain lack of compassion that is demonic. If you think that the real life idea that the Black Panther is superimposed on should be shunned, you are so sick, whether you're doing an experiment or not. If you think that women shouldn't look at the situation, that's a very handsome and passionate guy, and I'd love to date him if they're single, for example, then you're sick. Their failure to have even a speck of romance and a speck of sense, which would have allowed them to receive me, is appalling. And first and foremost, I blame males. When I think about the problem in society structuring, I don't think a bunch of average middle-class females or a bunch of rich girls or poor females who are attractive or otherwise. I think guys who put their foot down and said, this is how it's going to be, who failed to raise them correctly. I think of the church's failures, the government's failures, the failure of the rich. I think of things like this. But I also think of that person's individual lack of judgment. Put the blame where it's due, or you're just an oppressor, right? Judge each according to their deeds. And there's a reason why the tribe of Judah is called the tribe of Judah. There's the individual, there's the group. You have to judge them as groups and as individuals. As an individual, what group are you a part of? Did you scramble to separate yourself from that group and that philosophy, that culture, and that thinking? Or are you just the typical trying to throw people a bone here and there? If there was a Nazi guard who said he's just a typical Nazi and he tries to help here and there a little bit, would you not still think of him as a Nazi? So as we look at the characters on the screen, I'm taking it slowly because they're making it harder for me to talk, and I'm kind of doing a pretty good job here, so I'm going to continue this. I'm going to wrap this up soon. I don't want to take too long here. When we look at the depictions of the characters on the screen, again, they're called cartoon characters and movie characters. Characters and characteristic, and also character in terms of morals. How moral are they? What is their moral character? What are the characteristics of these characters? We see part of why I talk about universal truth, right? They're specific, right? Is he a samurai? And how much of a samurai is he? Or is he universal? Is he a great martial artist universally? Okay, can he beat everybody in sparring, a universal challenge for those who are true martial artists, not people in a specific kind of application of certain types of martial art thinking, like grappling, or, you might even say archery, because they barely, it's just barely outside of martial arts, but it's right there. Throwing knives, ninja stars, it's specific. Universally, when somebody is universally the most ideal man ever possible, and attractive women don't prefer him, it's because they are sick, sick, sick. As my mom would say, sick puppies. And my mom is basically also a feminist. She hates the idea of women being unfair and people being unfair, but she also hates the idea of people bashing women. Okay? So I would get, she would begrudgingly agree with me about things, I'd imagine, because this is 1 + 1 = 2 here. Who could disagree that cartoon characters are called characters because of their characteristics? Who could disagree about people being judged by the content of their character when we see that righteousness express itself as handsomeness in the flesh as well in truth? No machine, no sabotaging other people. I'm from a black patriarchal line. My dad was born in Africa, not America. My dad's not a Freemason that I know of. Okay? I am not from a privileged group of people. My mom is from the working class. My dad's from what, at least at the time, was the poorest nation on the planet, Nigeria, in terms of how much the average person has, right? The poor people in Nigeria are the poorest people on the planet at that time. It was like they live on like $2 a month or something, as the story goes. In a sense, the only type of person that resents rich oppressors more than someone who's currently poor is someone who's the son of somebody who was poor, dirt poor, and worked his way up, okay, who society still sabotages and prevents from being rich. Worked his way up as a brain surgeon at that. Over 40 years. And they are not rich right now. Because we live in a society where people don't look at characteristic, they look at stupid social norms that allow the lowest forms of life to have lots of money and the admiration, if you want to call it that, of attractive females, while I, the Son of God, am shunned. If you think that I shouldn't go on about this, then you're an idiot. You think it's okay for churches to go on and on about shallow ideas and pretend they're doing some empty prayers all day, every Sunday, what have you. But if every other day or so, or even every day, I talk about romantic injustice, you think magically I'm overdoing it. It's okay for lawyers to go every day and treat people unfairly, for prosecutors, for used car salesmen. You're not going to complain about that, but you would zoom in on me and say, why are you talking about romantic injustice? Why everyone else neglects this thing every day? Part of the answer to that question is God is love, and I am the Son of God. Now, I know this isn't my best video or something, but you should know that I'm right. Do you think that those female characters are equal to the idea that Black Panther is supposed on? No. There's a reason why Superman is called Superman. And the supernatural is called supernatural, right? It's not just natural, it's supernatural. The idea of a man with superhuman skills and a superhuman spirit and a supernatural spirit is greater than some groupies who would reject him because they're brainwashed by a white supremacist state, white Jewish and LGBT supremacist state, to prefer the oppressor to the oppressed, to prefer the wicked to the good. Like Isaiah said, woe to you who call good evil and evil good. If you don't know that I'm right, you are insane. If your soul doesn't yearn for women to treat males fairly, you're insane. And if you think that it's more females' fault than males, at this point right now, you are also insane. These guys insisted on a construct that played out like this. They compared the models and they decided they basically wanted it to play out this way. They social engineered. They urban planned. They had social controllers at every turn. And they said they wanted to shun the Son of God so much it's in their language. Foundation, found, alpha, shun. A plantation, plant, alpha, shun. Mention, the men shun. What does it mean to man? Up, and ver means man. So if it's a man shun, it's a mention, and a mansion, for example, that word as well, then it's a ver shun. They're shunning morality. And if they're shunning morality, they're shunning God. The laborer is worthy of his hire. The throne is established in righteousness. I've established my right to not only be the most ideal man ever possible, but to rule over women and everyone else with the most divine authority for any person in the flesh ever possible. But instead I'm shunned and treated with contempt.